All right. So this is how we started off yesterday. I'm going to try to do a do-over of my video from yesterday. I did a video yesterday about lunchtime at work and how much of lunchtime is your personal time and how much of that you should be forced to interact with other people around your lunchtime. And I wasn't very happy with the video. I wasn't feeling so well. Yesterday, I was on day 3 of a flare up of interstitial cystitis, otherwise known as painful bladder syndrome. And I wasn't feeling it, but I did the video anyway because I want to keep posting. And one of the reasons why I want to keep posting is that I might be starting a part-time job for back to school and for seasonal. And this job is going to take place after my regular day job. So I'll have about 20 minutes between each job, and then I'll be on the second job from about, 4:30 to 10, 11 p.m. And that's going to be anywhere from 4 to 6 days a week, depending on how much they need me. And I like having free time, but I did think about this, and I mean, free time is great, but you're not making any money having free time. And it's only until January or February. So it's not like a forever thing. Like once the seasonal Christmas stuff is done, then, I'll pretty much be laid off until the following year if they call me to do it again. And I wasn't happy with yesterday's video. I was rambling. I was meandering. My head just wasn't on straight. Painful bladder syndrome is a terrible thing. It basically makes you feel like you have a urinary tract infection. But if you go in for a test to your doctors, the test comes back clear. But you still have all the symptoms. You still have the pain and the burning. And for me, like, the worst two feelings for me is being hungry and feeling like I have to go to the bathroom. Like, that's just the worst. Like, all I think about is I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go. And then you try to go and there's nothing. But there's still like the pressure and the pain, like you have to go. So I am on medication for this, but occasionally because of a diet problem, not a problem, but a diet error that I would make, I would eat something that would trigger a flare-up. And then that flare-up could be anywhere from 1 to 3 to 5 days. I'm pretty lucky that I know how to calm it down. I am going to do an entire video about this condition later on, but I have some other information that I want to get together on it first. So let's start off with our regular intro. I would like to ask your help and cooperation in finding my uncle's killers. He was murdered in his home on October 4th, 2011. His name is Charles Panchery, Panchery, and he's from Elizabeth, New Jersey. And he was murdered in his home, stabbed to death, and left to die on the floor of his kitchen. If you have any information concerning my uncle's murder, you can call Crime Stoppers. I have the number right here, 1-800-822-8477, 1-800-822-TIPS, TIPS. And that happened on October 4th, 2011. And I know how much you guys love my glockenspiel. I know, but it's all packed away right now because this is like a last minute thing. I just decided to come on. My cat is meowing at the door. So you get my theme song a cappella. Ready? Who's the girl who never picks up her phone? Who's the girl who's never flown a drone? Who's the girl who loves to bitch and moan? Well, her name is MUBBO. So yesterday I did this video, as I was saying, and today I went to YouTube to download it so that I could upload a copy to Rumble. And it turns out that my video only recorded the first 5 seconds. Like it was me like futzing around with the lamp, trying to get the camera on the lamp, and it was all like screwed up. It's still like crooked. I don't know what happened, but only the first 5 seconds got recorded. So I just said, screw it, I'm going to do it over again. And if it messes up another time, I'm just going to go on to something else. I am starting my Andy Warhol series. I know I've been saying this for a while, but I have the video pretty much plotted out. I will be following somewhat of a script. I'm hoping to have some visual images, at least some, and I'm hoping to start that in the next week or two. I'd like to get it going before I start this second job. I'd like to at least get it off the ground, because then if I have the first one done, I'll be eager to keep the series going, because I think it's going to be really interesting. But for today, I want to talk about lunchtime at work. Some jobs that I've worked, lunch has been on your own, which is, for me, is the greatest situation, right? You start a job and you have to ask, well, what do you guys do for lunch here? And sometimes they'll say, oh, lunch is on your own. We have a nice cafeteria downstairs. You go downstairs and, a picnic area, and you can bring a book and you could just relax. Like, that's the perfect thing to me. One of the worst things for me, being a shy introvert, is, oh, well, everybody stops working around 12 o'clock, which is way too early for me to go to lunch. I'd like to go to lunch around 2. I know there are some labor laws in some states that say you have to go to lunch within a certain amount of hours. But me, being a Taurus, I don't like being told what to do. And honestly, I'm not hungry at 12 o'clock. I'm not hungry. I just got done eating breakfast, 4 or 5 hours ago. I'm not ready for a lunch. And then you get done eating, and now it's before 1 o'clock, and now you have the whole rest of the day. If you eat at like 2, now you've got 2 hours, 2.5 hours before you go home. And that's perfect. You don't have to go through that 3 o'clock slump. It's just 12 o'clock's too early. So one of these jobs that I worked with a supervisor. It was just her and I. And this job is going to come up again in my September 11th video. So just keep that in mind if you watch that one. This is the job that I'm talking about, this one. So she invited me to sit with all of her friends. She'd been at that company a while, and, I was still kind of new. I was getting to know everybody. So she invited me into this cafeteria, and we would all sit at the same table, and they would just gossip and complain about their jobs. And, me being like a quiet person, I'm a people watcher. I just like to hear what people are saying and observe. And pretty soon it's like, well, Mubbo, how come you're not interacting? You just sit there so quiet. Why are you so quiet? And for me, that's the worst thing for somebody to do to me. I don't like pointing out that I'm quiet. I already know I'm quiet. You don't need to point it out. And on top of that, which made this even worse, is that in my 20s, I started getting really bad rosacea, like really, really bad. Anytime I would get warm, anytime I would feel stressed, the cold would bring it on, my skin being too dry would bring, and I also had giant cystic acne, like in my 20s. And, of course, I would start getting red, and people would go, why are you getting red? Are you embarrassed? What's to be embarrassed about? We're all friends here. Why do you feel that way? Oh, look, her ears are getting all red. And of course, they'd say it really loud so that other people at other tables would start turning around and looking at me even more, which didn't help at all. I did the Metro Gel. If you guys have rosacea, it's a battle. I was on the Metro Gel for many years, and eventually it just stopped working for me. So my doctor switched me to Finacea, which does work. But Finacea only gets rid of the redness. It doesn't combat why you have rosacea. And there's actually some different schools of thought on rosacea. One of them is that, number one, it's just your skin, but there's a really interesting theory about Demodex mites. And it's been found in skin samples that people with rosacea have an abundance of Demodex mites, but they're not sure if you have rosacea because you have Demodex mites, or the Demodex mites are just attracted to you more because you have rosacea. They don't know. They're not sure about that. But the interesting is there is a medication out there called Sulantra, which is very expensive. I got lucky now because my insurance decided to pick it up, but over the counter or without insurance, it's about $600. I think for me, with my insurance, it's now like 55, which isn't bad at all. And the tube is pretty big, so it lasts a long time. So I'm on the Sulantra for nighttime and the Finacea for day. If you're on Finacea and you're not happy, ask your doctor to prescribe the Sulantra, but they might give some pushback and say, well, you're supposed to either be on one or the other, not on both. And you can tell them, well, I plan on doing Finacea in the morning and Sulantra at night. And they should give it to you. There's no reason why they wouldn't give it to you. So I ended up trying to put up with that as much as I could, being invited to lunch every day. But after a while, I would just start to go and like sit in my car because I didn't want to deal with that every single day. And eventually what happened is, and this leads into my next story, is that company had, well, number one, my supervisor ended up leaving for another position. So the group like kind of broke up after that. Like she was kind of the anchor that like held us all together. And she would like get everybody and like have us all come in. But when she left, people just started doing stuff on their own. So the company that I worked for had two divisions. It had a management division, and then it had an industrial construction division. It sold off the management division to another company, and there were like massive layoffs. But this company, the new company, actually invited me to continue what I was doing, just like under them. It would be the same type of work, but it would just, I would carry over the stuff that I was doing for the old company and just keep it going under like this new company name. And then this way, it would be like a seamless transition. I'm just going to take a drink really quick. So they were all like really nice. It was an executive department, much more professional than this other company. It was a publicly traded company, where the other company was like a privately held company. So it was kind of lax on a lot of things. They kind of had their own rules, and they didn't really have to listen to shareholders, because they were like an LLC. But this other company was a corporation, and they were much more corporate minded and much stricter in the dress codes and whatever, like timesheets, like everything had to be, all these forms to fill out and all this kind of stuff. They love forms. So I remember this one time, this is like the mindset. So like for me, if your manager, like if the upper management is like really elderly, you're probably going to have like, it's going to be like a lot less, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're going to be a lot more strict on a lot of things because they're used to doing things the old way. Like I remember that from Monday through Thursday, we had to get dressed up like corporate, like skirts and heels, or like a suit or a suit and tie or whatever. On Fridays, they let you wear like khakis. I know, right? Like, oh, we get to wear khakis. Oh boy. Khakis in like a nice dress shirt or something. Like that was the extent of their casual day, if you will. And this one time they were doing a fundraiser. So you would pay like $2 towards like whatever they were raising money for. And you got to wear jeans on Friday, which was a big deal. Everybody's paying $2. But I don't know if he was president or like the CFO or CEO, one of those. He went into one of the executive's office that was outside of his office. Like he had his own like little cloister that he like never came out of. And he came out and he started walking around. And he storms into one of the executive's office and he says really loud, he's like, "Why is everybody wearing dungarees?" I'll never forget that. It's like, oh my God, will you change your mindset? They're not dungarees, it's okay. But that the more corporate they are, the more strict they're going to be. And I don't like dress codes. I work from home, which is great. Like I would always kind of like skirt the system a little bit, like I would wear ballet flats and like long skirts, and I'd have like a pair of shorts on her so that like the second I was done with work, I would just go in the bathroom, take off my skirt, walk out in like shorts and like a t-shirt like underneath my blouse. Like I hated getting dressed up. I hated it. So I worked for that company for about 2 years, and they had this arrangement where, so let me just preface by saying this was like in the early 2000s, right? So they had this arrangement where if you wanted to eat lunch with them, you could do your own thing, but they did like a department-wide like get together for lunch every single day. So what they would do is, if you wanted to join their lunch, it was paid for by the company. You got a free lunch through the company. You had to agree to get on the distribution list to volunteer to coordinate the lunch for that day, right? So there was like me and a couple of other admins, and then the executives, and like each executive had their own admin, which would like do the lunch for them. So we split up. There's probably like 8 of us. So we split it all up. I says, all right, I'll do this. I'm not gonna, these people seem really nice. They want me to join them. They want to include me. I don't want to be like the weirdo who like sits in our office all the time. So I decided to go in on it, knowing nothing about it. I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll join up, whatever. So the first couple of days, I got my lunch and, I got, salads, and they would go to like a different place. They would go to delis and like, Chinese or Italian or whatever was like the choice for the day. But Thursday was always sushi day. And my very first day to do the lunch was Thursday, right? So I go into my supervisor and I said, I think I have today, it's sushi day. What do I need to do? She's like, oh, sushi day is so easy. She's like, that's the easiest day. Like, you don't even have to ask anybody what they want. They get the same sushi lunch every week. There's specials they choose from. That's all they want. You just have to put what you want on the list. And then you fax over this template to them. And it says like what everybody wants. And then she's like, you wait about 20 minutes and then you just go get it. You wait for the fax confirmation in that they got it, and then you just go pick it up. So that sounds great. That sounds so easy. So I went around and I got everybody's lunch and everything. And, I started like tallying up all this thing, and it came to like $200. I says, okay. I says to my supervisor, I got the fax confirmation back. I'm ready to go pick it up. How do I pay for this? Do I, is there a corporate card, or do you guys have an account over there that you just bill the account? And she says, no, you pay for it. And then you get a receipt. And then when you come back, you fill out an expense report, and then we expense it back to you. So you get reimbursed. And I'm standing there like, oh crap. Like, I don't think I have $200. Like, this was in the early, like there was no jump on your phone and let's see where your bank balance is. This was my first week. I haven't even received a paycheck from this place yet. And now I have to spend $200 to go and get the food. I'm like praying and like sweating that, I have enough money. So I drive over there, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, if I don't have any money, it's going to be so embarrassing. Like, I'm brand new to this company. I don't even have a savings account. Like I had nothing. I was just like, I was just off a divorce. I was giving my mom money for watching my kids because like I couldn't afford a daycare for like two kids. So my mom was helping out. And I go and I get the food and it goes through and I come back and I give them the report, the expense report, and she's like, all right, it'll take like 7 to 10 days for the money to come back. So now I'm like, oh my God, now I have to ride this out for like another week and a half. And then of course, like by the time I get reimbursed, it's now my time to go and get lunch again. I might not get sushi, I'll, get something else. But sushi, it's the easiest, but it's also the most expensive lunch. So the other interesting thing when you go to get the lunch is you are responsible for anyone's lunch who didn't get their lunch. So if you start unpacking everything and you're like, oh crap, this is the wrong thing for John. You order a turkey sandwich and they gave him ham and he doesn't like ham or whatever. He was then allowed to go and he could either trade his lunch with somebody or somebody else will volunteer to give him half of their lunch or some of, whatever. It was a very like all for one for all, which is kind of nice. This way nobody had to sit and do without. But if you came back without somebody's lunch, like if you pull out everything and it's like, oh my goodness, Susie's lunch is not here at all. Like they didn't give it to them. They would have the option of taking half of your lunch. So the person who went and got the lunch, you would be the first choice to give them half. And if they didn't want what you had, then everybody else just like pitched in and like gave them what they want, which was kind of nice. But it was just like sweating bullets that very first day. But after a while, you just kind of get used to it. And they, like I said, they were a really nice group. And I ended up leaving because I had another baby and he had some health issues. And it was just, if you have a child with health issues, it's really, really hard to get a daycare to take them, because if they have like anything, like even any kind of like little device, my son had a feeding tube, but he took a bottle, right? But he still had a feeding tube. They wouldn't take him because they says that qualifies as a medical device. So I ended up quitting. And then like that following August, we bugged out and we moved up to New England. So I started all over again from like zero, and I stayed home with my son for about 2 years. So it was kind of a nice break, but yeah, that's it for this episode. As I said, I want to try to really this is just like a test to like see if I'm having the same issue. And I'm streaming directly through YouTube Studio Live. I'm not on OBS. I'm not using StreamYard or Streamlabs or nothing. I'm just on YouTube. So, I'm really hoping that whatever happened yesterday was just a fluke. There was nobody home, so it's not like we were competing for bandwidth, or there weren't any storms in the area, so like the power didn't get knocked out. Nothing happened. It was just one of those weird things. So I'm really hoping that this one doesn't screw up, and I will talk to you guys later. MUBBO.